Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm. What do you think is the most dangerous invention of mankind? Something that destroys and causes more suffering than any bombs or weapons. It is something so ingrained in our civilization that we really notice it, let alone question it. Yet this demonic invention profoundly impacts all our lives. What is it? And how can we protect ourselves from it?
The origin goes way back. As you have seen in my previous videos, eons and eons ago, a certain number of divine beings, also called angelic beings, left the seven-dimensional absolute reality, the pure heavens, to create their own creation. This event is generally known as the fall of angels. Chances are we were part of these celestial revels. These spirit beings left the realm of peace, love, wisdom, harmony and truth. But once they were on their own, they soon forgot their divine origin. They began to fight with each other for dominance and energy, thereby removing themselves further and further away from the high-vibrating pure heavens, until many landed in the astral spheres with the material universe and planet Earth. Over time, the more these souls incarnated, the more they forgot who they truly are and from where they once came. From the beginning, life on Earth was not easy, and to make sense of all the nature phenomena like storms, volcanic eruptions, floods and so on, people began to invent myths and legends about supernatural beings who caused these disasters, like deities, heroes and villains. But these myths and legends changed when the agricultural revolution began. Now people suddenly had valuable possessions like land, homes, crops, granaries and so on, which other tribes wanted and were eager to steal. These other tribes now became enemies. The separation of us and them began. This is when these stories were elevated to powerful demonic tools to control and manipulate the people, as these stories now established rules and laws that everyone had to follow to cooperate effectively to protect the tribe and their possessions, which, of course, is nothing but energy. These stories were all created by those who were in power, like the rulers, the pharaohs, the kings, and the priests, who were the biggest storytellers of them all. Having totally forgotten their own divine inheritance and origin, they made up fantastic and outlandish stories of demanding and wrathful gods who would severely punish anyone who would disobey or break any made-up rules or laws. With these stories, the priests also created rituals, new dogmas, special dress codes, different ways to pray and bring offerings or even sacrifices to please their gods. The purpose of these stories was to control and draw energy from the people. With these made-up stories, they forced the masses to build temples, palaces, and guard walls. Their stories justified slavery and caste systems, dividing those who are outcasts and those who are privileged. For most people, it was a miserable life, for every cruelty was rationalized by a matching invented story which was not allowed to be challenged. Here is a typical example. In 1095, Pope Urban II made up a story that God was very unhappy that the city of Jerusalem was under Muslim control. He explained that this God promises any young man who fights and dies in the war to free Jerusalem would go straight to heaven and live in eternal bliss. This totally made up and demonic story initiated the crusade and caused the death of countless people. It was the organized religions which came up with outlandish stories like the original inhabitants of America were soulless people and therefore could be killed. They justified slavery, and it was the religious leaders under demonic influence who came up with the story that women are second-class beings, which could be owned, sold, mistreated and even used for personal gratification. In many parts of the world, women are still not regarded as equal to men, and their suffering continues. Look at the Middle East and other places around the globe where people are killing each other and destroy property solely because they believe in different religious or tribal stories made up by their own imam, rabbi, priests or rulers. Again, the bombs, drones or rockets are merely tools to execute the stories people believe and which drive them to unleash such destruction on their brothers and sisters, causing the horrendous suffering which releases louche energy that feeds the demonic instigators. Yes, fictional stories can create strong feelings in people, like, for instance, the story of a nation. You can't see, feel, touch, hear, or taste it. It exists only in the minds of millions of people who believe in it. Or take a flag. It's only a piece of cloth. But the story we are told about the flag makes it so powerful that people feel special and are prepared to die and kill for it. Money is another form of invented story and a favorite tool to control and manipulate. There is no real value to this piece of paper. I can't eat it when I'm hungry, but I can buy a piece of bread with it because we have collectively given it a totally fictitious value. Money is an abstract invention. The same applies to corporations, which were solely created to protect the owners from any liability and lawsuits. Yes, lawyers are also great storytellers with their inventions of laws and rules. All corporations like GM, Apple, Google, American Airlines are nothing but fictional stories people believe. So most religious, economical and political stories are total inventions to manipulate, control and navigate the masses on this planet. And so is all of our history, as the word itself already implies. History are usually stories written by the conquerors, who are mostly males. The historian Yuval Harari writes, "History is often shaped not by deterministic power relations, but rather by tragic mistakes that result from believing in mesmerizing but harmful stories." So, what can we do to protect ourselves from the negative impact of such stories? To find out whether a story is harmful or not, we can ask ourselves, who is hurt by this story? So by questioning them, we can then change or drop the stories and free ourselves. Finally, there is another type of story that causes untold harm. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are. These stories, often influenced by negative or even demonic forces, can include thoughts like, "I'm a victim," "nobody loves me," "my parents hate me," and countless others. These internal narratives are the true source of much of our suffering. However, when we start to question these thoughts or stories by asking, "Is this true?" and "Can I know for sure that this is true?" their hold on us begins to weaken. The result, even in the most challenging situations, can be profound freedom and joy. Please check out my website lifeexplained.com and subscribe to this channel, and then I will see you again in my next video.